talks about life, scene Canyon, take one.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for Talks About Life. I'm here with Canyon Prince. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, first question, where were you born and where are you from?
Wow, right out the gate, huh?
Yeah.
Personal questions.
Yeah.
I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, and grew up the early part of my life in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is about an hour outside of Knoxville, up in the Smoky Mountains. Lived there, and then lived in Virginia for a stint, and Maryland, and then finally moved to Florida, and then was there until I moved out to California.
So when people are like, oh, where are you from? You say Florida.
Yeah, usually I say
Orlando.
Florida because that's where I went to middle school and high school, and then part of a little bit of college.
And you moved out here originally to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired you to get into entertainment?
I think I was definitely raised on, not on movies. I mean, I was raised by my parents, but movies were a big part of my life. From as early as I can remember, had a love of film and television and stuff like that. And I think as a kid, kind of the actors were the only thing I understood was part of that process. Because they're the people you see. You don't see the directors, the hair and makeup people, or whatever. So I think that's kind of what I latched on to. And I was a big performer in my house. My parents were really supportive of just creativity. So, I would, on Friday nights, I would gather the family around and do like really bad magic shows or, puppet shows for a stint. And then, so I was always performing. I went to like Wolf Trap Summer Theater for acting and stuff like that. So I guess that's kind of how I got into it. I was always in theater and plays and stuff growing up.
So then you moved out here and did some acting.
Yeah, I moved out here in '99 and did the typical kind of progression, I guess. Came out, started doing background work, worked a ton of shows. That's how I got into the union. I was, slowly collecting SAG vouchers and stuff, which is fairly easy when A, you're not weird or crazy, and B, you have some type of, I guess, like, I hadn't really done production, but I was competent in that world, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it was always like checking in with the second and like, hey, do you need anything? Like, you need me to go get the guy, basically kissing ass.
Yeah.
So I would get vouchers that way. But then I was working Boston Public, and they had hired us all to be these two rival wrestling teams. It was like a story arc where this overweight girl joins the wrestling team, and she like dominates. So we played, me and a couple buddies and some other people played these wrestlers, and we all got vouchers from that. And then they asked me to come back, I guess as like a featured extra, and that's what got me into SAG. So I did that, and then, I got a manager, and he was terrible, and so I never did anything. So then I went into production, because while I was doing background work, I was working on the show Gilmore Girls, and had befriended the 80s there. So they started kind of, while I was doing background, letting me, coordinate extras and crosses and stuff like that. And then that led to me PAing on shows, and then I went on the X-Files and worked the whole last season of that. So did that for a stint, and then came back to the acting with a new manager who was fantastic, and that's when I shaved my head and kind of reinvented myself, and that's really when the acting started. That's when I did like The Riches and with Eddie Izzard, and did some commercials and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So what was it that made you decide to transition to directing?
It was mainly necessity. When the writer's strike happened, that was The Riches was like one of the last shows to shoot before the strike. The strike had already started, but anything that was kind of already in motion was still, I guess, able to work because it was the writers that were striking, so the scripts were already done. And so I had booked that, so I went and shot that, and that was like I had just done a national commercial for Diet Mountain Dew, and done like a sexual harassment PSA for the Air Force, and did the Riches, and I was like, oh yeah, I've arrived, this is awesome. And then the town shut down. Yeah. And so me and my buddy J. Michael, who you know, J. Michael Briggs, were like all depressed because he's an actor as well, and we're just spending our days, day drinking and playing golf. And this was right at the beginning of like the web series where Joss Whedon had just done Dr. Horrible, and we had this crazy night where we I think met this, either he was on a date or we met a girl at a bar, and we all went back to my place with like her friend and her friend's boyfriend, and this one girl ended up being like crazy and not liking me at all. And the next day we're like hungover, we're playing golf, and we're just like reliving this story, and like that's like crazy. That would make a funny show. And we came up with this idea of what eventually became The Romantic Foibles of Esteban, which is a show about this guy who's trying to find love through online dating, and like each episode is this date that goes horribly, horribly wrong, and it was based off of that evening. So that's kind of how the genesis came. Looking back, when I was a kid during those creative times and stuff, my parents had bought a video camera, which I almost immediately hijacked and would make stop motion animation movies, and like I'd wrangle like my brothers and sisters and make these action movies where we'd be like fighting, and then there would be a really bad cut, and then I'd throw like a dummy dressed in their clothes over the balcony of the second story. And so looking back, I was always making films, but I didn't really know I was doing it, I guess. It was just kind of a way to facilitate me acting,
right?
By putting stuff on tape. And even in like my 20s, we were doing that. Me and my buddy Jay Flats and Seth and a couple other guys would, I bought a camera with, it's basically like I could buy food or I could buy this camera, and like we could make stuff. So I would buy the camera, and then we'd go and I'd just call everybody up and say, hey, I got this idea of, these three brothers and their mom's sick, and so they go to rob this place and they accidentally kill this old guy. You guys want to do it? Yeah. And like an hour later, we'd all meet together and go out in the woods and shoot this little short. There's actually on the Hard Sun DVD, there's a hidden short film from one of the first shorts that Jay and I did. So I think I'm going to do that in each movie I direct, kind of hide one of those Easter eggs of the shorts. Yeah.